So if you're a home bartender like myself and you're wondering how you can impress your friends at your next party with the ice that you use in your cocktails, then this is the correct video for you. My name is Ron Verben. I'm a full-time medical doctor and I've been a home bartender for over 5 years now. During that time, I've learned how to make over 100 different cocktails and I've done over 50 cocktail parties. And I teach other busy professionals how to make cocktails at home. And in this video, I'm going to be answering that very important question about ice. How do you make ice that impresses your friends and family at your next big party or big event? And as I mentioned in the intro, I've thrown over 50 parties, and at the vast majority of them, my friends and family and the guests that I've had at my parties have been very impressed with the ice that I use. And that's demonstrated by the ice trays that I have here. So before we talk about that, let's talk about what you shouldn't do as a home bartender. Now, if you watch the videos from all the other bartending YouTubers and you look for guides online, whether on YouTube or on blogs or on other websites or things like that, they're all going to be mentioning something called clear ice. So what clear ice is pretty self-descriptive. As the name describes, it's a block of ice. It could be a cube, it could be a sphere, it could be a big, small, rectangular, a spear. It doesn't really matter. So whatever shape it is, the main point is that it's clear. And clear ice does have a couple benefits. One is that obviously because it's clear, it does look much better. So it's much more presentable. And two, the other big one, which you may not be as aware of, the second main benefit is that it melts slower, which in turn leads to less dilution, which is important when you're making cocktails. So those are the benefits of clear ice, but it is very impractical to do as a home bartender. So that's why I'm going to go completely against all of the other bartending YouTubers and say that you as a home bartender should not be looking to use clear ice. There's a couple of reasons why it's impractical. One is that the method of making clear ice is very time intensive and bulky. So what clear ice, just to summarize how to make clear ice, you take a pretty sizable ice cooler about like this big. You fill it up completely with purified water, usually from a water filter, and then you store it in your freezer and you have to let it sit for about 24 hours. So it's both time intensive because it takes the full 24 hours you have to let it sit, and then it's also bulky because you have to take a giant ice cooler and then store it in your freezer. Then once that 24 hours is done, you take it out, you have this giant block of ice, and because it uses this method called directional freezing, all of the impurities will gather in one section of that ice. So once you shave, you use a giant ice knife to shave off that part, the remaining section is completely clear ice, and then you can go ahead and use various tools like a knife, ice pick, et cetera, to shape that into cubes, spheres, rectangular prisms, or spears, so they can fit your different glasses. And then you can then go ahead and then store those in either a cooler or Ziploc bags in your freezer or whatever method you choose to use. So, I would say it's impractical. One is because it's very time intensive. Two is because it's actually quite labor intensive and pretty difficult to do because you have to get quite good at using the different tools to shape your ice into different shapes for your glasses. And even with that whole method, you might not get that many pieces of ice. You might get like 10, 15, something like that in terms of pieces of ice. And the other reason is that it's very bulky. You know, as a home, you guys are not professional home bartenders. If you're watching this channel, you're going to be home bartenders like myself, which means by definition, you're making drinks in your own apartment, your own house. You know, I'm filming this right now in my kitchen just to demonstrate that. Just a little bit off of camera is my fridge and freezer. And that's not just the fridge and freezer that I use to make drinks. It's also the ones that I use to store my food. And, you know, I'm fortunate enough to have quite a big space. And at this time, I also do live by myself. But I know that a lot of you that are watching this probably share your fridge and freezer space with either roommates, family, maybe you're married and have kids, maybe you're living with your friends, something like that. So you're probably going to be sharing this space with other your fridge space and your freezer space with other people. So you can't go ahead and take up the majority of it with just a giant ice cooler and store that in there. So it's mainly impractical for those reasons. One is that it's very time and labor intensive, and then two is that it just takes up way too much space. So even though clear ice does have those benefits, you know, it does melt slower and it does look more presentable, it's just too difficult and too impractical to do as a home bartender. So that's why I strongly recommend against that. You know, I've been doing this home bartending journey I've been on this journey for over 5 years now, and I've made hundreds and hundreds, probably thousands of cocktails by this point. I've never once used the clear ice method to make clear ice for my cocktails. So let's just set that aside. You know, if you're at your advanced stage, I would say 2 to 3 plus years in, and you're really interested in doing something special, you're throwing a very special event, let's say it's a milestone birthday party for somebody, or you're celebrating an achievement at work or something like that, and you have just you, your partner, maybe a couple of close friends or family over, and you're only making drinks for maybe 5, 6 people at most, and you want to do something special, and you're really into, you watch all the different videos on clear ice, and you want to try it for yourself, and you want to do that, then I would say go ahead and do that. I'm not going to stop you. That's totally fine and acceptable, that method. This video specifically is geared more towards people that are more in the early stages, beginner, intermediate, first 2 years, maybe even first few months as a home bartender. And you're looking to throw your first cocktail party and you really want to impress your friends. I've thrown over 50 cocktail parties. I've never once used clear ice, and I'm still impressed all of my friends and family with the ice that I use. And that's demonstrated by the ice trays that I have here. These 3 trays are all from Cocktail Kingdom, and they come in various, if you go on Cocktail Kingdom's website and go to the ice tray section, you'll find various shapes and sizes. So the most bang for your buck that you're going to get is from this light green one here. This is the smaller 1-inch ice cubes. And this works in a wide variety of drinks, whether you're serving your drinks in solo cups, low ball glasses, high ball glasses, you're making stirred drinks, shaken drinks, you're using these to shake, you're putting them in a stirring glass and using them to make shaken drinks. Whatever the use, this is going to be the most bang for your buck. And also, it's quite sizable in that you can actually get 15 ice cubes from just one tray. And most drinks that I make use about 2 or 3 ice cubes. So you can get quite a good amount with that. So this is going to be definitely the workhorse. This is the one that I use most oftenly, or the most often, I should say. And then I have 2 other ones right here. So if you can only get one ice tray and you want to impress your friends, go ahead and use this one. These 2 are the more specialty ones, but they are, I actually do get more compliments on them just because they're more impressive. So this one is also a cube, but it's much bigger. I believe it's 2 inches or so on each of the directions. So it's a 2-inch ice cube. So quite a bit bigger than the one here. As you can see, you can only get 6 ice cubes from one tray. But whether you're making either a shaken, it's not as useful for shaken, but definitely for stir drinks, this is a pretty good option. You really only need 1 ice cube per drink. And because they're so big, there's much less surface area. So these are going to melt far slower than these ones. So you can actually make somebody a stir drink. And if they ask for a refill, you don't actually have to add any more ice because this ice is probably still going to be in there. So this is another great option. I would say, this is going to be the workhorse. And I still do get compliments with this one. But this blue one, the bigger one, because the cubes are bigger, I tend to get more compliments with these. And people are very impressed when I use the ice cubes from this tray. And then finally, the most specialty of all of them is the orange one here. This is going to be your Collins spear. So if you're making highballs, these fit pretty nicely into one of those highball glasses. So if you're making, any highball drinks, Moscow Mules, Palomas, anything like that, and you want to serve it in a highball glass, then this is going to be a great option for that. And this one also gets a ton of compliments. As I mentioned, these 2, while not as versatile and used for as many drinks, these are going to be the ones that give you the most compliments. But I have also still gotten compliments on these. And, these will not get you clear ice. They will tend to melt faster than clear ice. But just because of the, I think it's mainly because of the consistent shape and size of these ice cubes. These are a huge upgrade over the standard ice that your fridge or freezer will make, or the standard ice trays that most people have and most people are familiar with. So these are a significant upgrade over those, and they're enough to get you quite a few compliments when you're making drinks for your friends and family. So all of these ice cube trays, especially this green one here, will be linked in the description below if you're interested in purchasing them. Because like I said, these, in my opinion, are a huge upgrade over the standard ice cube trays that you probably have already in your freezer, or the standard ice that your freezer or fridge makes for you. So go ahead, and if you're wanting to be like me, you want to throw parties and impress your friends and family with cocktails, and especially if you want to impress them with the ice that you use for those cocktails, go ahead and go to Cocktail Kingdom and purchase these ice cube trays. They honestly last forever. I believe I've had, actually no, I think this one for sure I've had since I first started this journey. I started in June 2020 and I've had this since September 2020, and it stood up. I haven't had to replace it. Made countless ice cubes, that more than I can even think of. And just for one additional piece of advice, if you're making ice for a party, this is not going to be enough for most parties that you throw unless you're only having like a couple people over. So what I like to do for parties, let's say I'm throwing a party this coming Friday, for example. On Monday, I'll go ahead and fill up this ice cube tray, and then I'll take one of those gallon-sized Ziploc bags, and at the end of the day, this takes about 4 hours to freeze, 4 to 5 hours, I would say. So I usually fill it up in the morning. I come home from work, I take out all the ice cubes, put them in that Ziploc bag, then refill it, and then the cycle starts over for the next day. So if you start that on Monday, by the time you get to Friday, you've done it at least 5 times. You know, it only takes 4 or 5 hours, so you can actually do it multiple times a day. But even if you just do it 5 times, by Friday you'll have 75 ice cubes in your freezer. So go ahead and also buy those giant like gallon-sized Ziploc bags. So that's what I do, because I use these, and people are always impressed not only by the ice cubes that I use, they're also impressed that I never seem to run out of ice. They're like, oh, he just pulls ice out of nowhere. I've had parties like that where people say stuff like that. So that's just a bonus tip for that. If you're gonna throw a party and you know you're gonna need a lot of ice, go ahead and use that method where you fill this up, take out the ice, put it in a Ziploc bag, and then repeat the process the next day. By the end of the week, you'll have at least 75 ice cubes. That's more than plenty for even pretty big size parties. Anyways, that's all the advice I have for today's video. If you found the advice helpful, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. I really like to do 2 types of videos on this channel. One will be like this style, where I do general tips and tricks and give advice and share stories from my own journey that I hope will help you guys become better home bartenders. And the second style of video will be where I do tutorials on how to make specific cocktails. Thank you. Cheers.